Good evening, everyone. It's 6:30 p.m. and I'll now declare this ordinary meeting of the Town of Victoria Park Council open. I'd like to begin with an acknowledgement of country and invite Councillor Cruiser to read the acknowledgement to the traditional owners.
Nang Shepperton wajak nunga, bujak yakin, nija bilyabadok. I'm honoured to be standing on Wajak Noongar country on the banks of the Swan River. Nang Kadich Noongar Moot, Kan Karak Nija Wajak Noongar Buja. Nang Kadich Nija Noongar Berdia Kura, Yay, Bora, Balapin Mudich Noongar Kadichin, Moot Ware Buja, Yay. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and respect past, present, and emerging leaders, their continuing cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship with the land, which continues to be important today. Nang Yunga Balapin Noongar Badia Wa Moot Nija Bucha. I thank them for the contribution made to life in the town of Victoria Park and to this region.
Thanks, Councillor Cruiser. Item 2 is announcements from the presiding member. Firstly, 2.1, recording and live streaming of proceedings. In accordance with Regulation 14I of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, this meeting is being audio and video recorded and live streamed on the town's website. Under Clause 39(1) of the Town of Victoria Park Meeting Procedures Local Law 2019, I do not give permission for any other person to record the proceedings of this meeting. By being present at this meeting, members of the public consent to the possibility that their image and voice may be live streamed to the public. Recordings of this meeting are also made available on the town's website following the meeting. 2.2, public question time and public statement time. There are guidelines that need to be adhered to in our council meetings, and during question and statement time, people speaking are not to personalise any questions or statements about elected members, town staff, or use any possible defamatory remarks. In accordance with Clause 40 of the Meeting Procedures Local Law, a person addressing the Council shall extend due courtesy and respect to the Council and the processes under which it operates, and shall comply with any direction by the presiding member. A person present at or observing a meeting shall not create a disturbance at the meeting by interrupting or interfering with the proceedings, whether by expressing approval or dissent, by conversing, or by any other means. When the presiding member speaks during public question time or public statement time, any person then speaking is to immediately stop, and every person present is to preserve strict silence so that the presiding member may be heard without interruption. As per my usual practice, there's a limit of 3 questions per person, with 2 minutes allocated for the making of statements. However, if there are very few people in attendance with questions or statements to make, we can be more generous with those time limits. In accordance with Clause 56 of the Meeting Procedures Local Law, both elected members and the public, when speaking, are not to reflect adversely on the character or actions of elected members or town employees. 2.5 covers the Mayor's report for this month. Firstly, an announcement, although it's going back to April now. Congratulations to the town on another excellent commemoration for this year's Anzac Day dawn service. This solemn occasion attracted a significant crowd, and all the community feedback I received afterwards and in subsequent emails that followed was very complimentary and filled with gratitude to the town. The occasion was made special by all the community groups and schools who participated in various ways, including the 702 Australian Air Force Cadets, Victoria Park Scouts Group, Victoria Park South Perth RSL Sub-Branch, Victoria Park Brass Band, Lions Club of Victoria Park Rotary, Kent Street Senior High School and Ursula Frayne Catholic College. And special thanks go to our own Councillor Dan Minson, who did a fine job in the role of Master of Ceremonies on the day. So going now to the rest of the Mayor's report from April through to today's date. On the 23rd of April, I officially opened the newest community little library created by the South Bank Montessori students, which is now publicly available on Berwick Street in East Victoria Park, and I also read some books for them for story time. Later that morning, I attended the Harold Hawthorne Community Centre's Anzac Day commemoration to give the opening speech and lay a wreath. That afternoon, I received a delegation of Aboriginal students from Ursula Frayne Catholic College here at the Council Chambers, together with their principal, Mark Antonov, who presented me with a commemorative message stick that has been commissioned for our council by the college and created by Noongar artist Cheryl Lennox Bradley. And we're in the process of getting an appropriate stand made for the message stick to take its rightful place here in our chambers, since it was specially commissioned for us. On the 24th of April, I attended the Millen Primary School's Anzac Day School Assembly to lay a wreath. On 25 April, I attended the town's Anzac Day dawn service and gave the mayoral address, and along with Councillor Minson, who also represented the town and performed the role of Master of Ceremonies. Later that morning, I attended a small service and morning tea at the Victoria Park South Perth RSL sub-branch, where I also laid a wreath on behalf of the town. On the 30th of April, I attended a special council meeting followed by an ordinary council meeting of Mindarie Regional Council. On the 2nd of May, I joined many members of our community for the annual Sculptures by the Street, which is an initiative by the residents of Willis Street in East Victoria Park that is now in its 7th year. If you haven't seen it, get along when it happens. It's on for a day, but usually lasts for a few extra days, and shows what creative talents we have in our community and what a wonderful sense of community spirit they have on Willis Street. Later on the 2nd of May, I attended the Victoria Park Centre for the Arts Piano in the Park showcase, which was held at the Ellington Jazz Club in Perth. The showcase featured piano performances by all of the young local student pianists from our community and their mentors who participated in the 12-week program. And this event was supported by an arts grant from the town. On the 6th of May, the CEO and I attended the first meeting of the Perth Inner City Group for the year, which was hosted by the City of Perth. The key topics for discussion were the final update on the Safer Speeds on Local Roads project, which has now successfully received state funding through the Road Safety Commission and will commence its rollout in the coming financial year. We also had a presentation from Neuron Beam Mobility for a 12-month trial of e-scooters and e-bike rental arrangement through a tourist loop along the Swan River foreshore involving Perth, South Perth, Victoria Park and Vincent. On the 7th of May, I attended the Town Team Movements Festival of Doing at the Bentley Community Centre, and the City of Canning is very welcome for my contribution to artwork on their road. On the 8th of May, I attended the post-budget breakfast with the Treasurer at Crown Perth, and later that day I attended the second day of the Festival of Doing at the Hillview Multicultural Centre. On the 14th of May, I helped officially open Racecourse Boulevard, the newest road in the town of Victoria Park, located at Burswood Point, along with the Minister for Planning, the Honourable John Carey, MLA, and the directors of the Golden Group and Golden Sadeu. Later that afternoon, together with Robert Cruikshank, the Manager of Development Services, I made a deputation to the WA Planning Commission in opposition to the Perth Park development application. Sadly, about 2 hours later, the WA Planning Commission approved the development application. On 15 May, I attended the town's second cultural burn at the Hillview Community Bushland, along with councillors Minson, Crozer and Gordon Manley, and a number of town staff. The event was led by traditional owners, members of our own Mindera Advisory Group, and supported by Curtin University and the Department of Fire and Emergency Services Centre for Bushfire Excellence. It was a great opportunity for us all to learn some knowledge from traditional owners and to also see the biodiversity advantages of cultural burns in the bushland. Later that morning, I attended a meeting of the Metropolitan Regional Roads Group at Main Roads to approve the 2026-27 roads funding project budgets for the metropolitan area councils. On the 16th of May, I held Share with the Mayor at the Library, and last night, the 18th of May, I presided at a citizenship ceremony where we welcomed 30 new Australian citizens from 15 different countries. And my thanks to Councillor Cruiser for being the Master of Ceremonies last night. That concludes the Mayor's report. Item 3 on the agenda is attendance. We have all but one elected member in attendance, so we have an apology from Councillor Melrosa. We have a number of the town's executive management and staff led by our acting CEO, Mr David Doy, as our Chief Executive Officer is an apology for tonight. There is no one on approved leave of absence. Item 4, declarations of interest. Mr Acting CEO, any declarations of interest, please?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. I have received no declarations of interest at this stage.
All right, thank you. So this is a reminder, is there anyone at this stage who thinks they have an interest they need to declare and have not yet done so? No? Well, again, a reminder as we go through the items, if you do think you've got a matter of interest that you need to declare, you need to do that as soon as possible and before the item comes up for discussion and debate. We'll move now on to item 5, which is public question time, which I will now open at 6:40 p.m. 5.1, response to previous public questions taken on notice at the last council meeting on the 21st of April are contained in the agenda. 5.2 is the main part of our public question time. I have had notification that we have had someone who pre-registered to ask some questions. However, I'm going to formally ask, because I don't think they're in the public gallery, Josh Merriman. Clearly nobody in attendance on that basis. So I'll go to the next person who is listed. Vince Maxwell, please come forward. State your name and suburb, please, for our records, and we'll look forward to hearing your questions.
Good evening, Vince Maxwell from Victoria Park. I just want to acknowledge the past, present and future ratepayers of the district, for they are the ones that pay all the bills. My question is, under the tree retention policy number 47, the council has empowered the CEO to impose significant fines of up to $200,000 on ratepayers who remove or improperly prune trees on private property. Does that policy provide any exemption for a resident who claims they were merely incompetent, lacked proper systems or failed to adequately manage their pruning activity?
I refer that question to the acting CEO.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Thanks for the question, Mr. Maxwell. LPP 47, which, as you said, is our tree retention policy, does provide exemptions. There's a range of exemptions that are listed in there, which are to do with, largely, to do with tree maintenance, for instance, pruning. Doesn't talk to systems and the like.
Your next question, Mr. Maxwell?
Council has repeatedly referred to organisational accountability. Can Council explain how the public is meant to distinguish between genuine accountability and a situation where no identifiable individual faces any consequence for more than 50 unauthorised tree removals?
Mr. Maxwell, the report that is before Council tonight is for noting, but I know that you're familiar with it because you came to the Agenda Briefing Forum 2 weeks ago and asked us questions about this. That report indicates that there were a number of trees that were removed and they had approval to be removed. So when you refer to unauthorised tree removals, there are trees that were removed that were not originally intended to be removed as per the original council resolution and the adoption of various plans for the project. The report to council makes clear that as a result of a number of systemic processes and procedural failures, there were trees that were removed that had a level of approval, but they were certainly not what was originally intended to be removed from the site. And because of that, the report indicates how that occurred, and it occurred cross-functionally as a result of a number of different factors. Some of them were exacerbated by, for example, changes in town staff who were in charge and managing the project at different times, as well as matters to do with the project management systems that were in place at the town. If your idea of organisational accountability is that we take an individual and we hang, draw and quarter them in the public square for what is said to be some fault of theirs, that's not organisational accountability. In this instance, in my view, the town's report, both the original Elizabeth Bailey investigation report and the executive response from the CEO, makes it clear that the town as an organisation takes full responsibility for the removal of all the trees at Elizabeth Bailey Park. And that's on the basis that whether those trees were originally planned to be removed or not, whether those trees were removed as a result of particular people at the town approving for their removal, they did so within a framework which, as it now turns out, has been recognised to be unsuitable for the purposes that council would have intended it to be, which was for the protection of as many trees as possible. So the town has accepted full responsibility. There is no need, nor is it good business practice, to identify individuals within an organisation who have been working in a system that itself is not working properly, and to have them take individual responsibility. So that is the position that is presented by the town's report so far to council, and if you wish, you can stay and hear if there's any debate on this item tonight. Do you have another question?
Yes, I do. Thanks, Mayor. If a private developer caused environmental damage on this scale through poor governance, inadequate systems and lack of oversight, would the town simply require them to improve their processes going forward, or would enforcement action normally follow?
I'm going to refer that question to the acting CEO.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Well, the question is quite speculative because obviously details matter and things are assessed on a case-by-case basis. Often, if there is a tree that has been removed unintentionally or outside of the scope of a development application, the town may require replacement plantings and so on, but no, we wouldn't be interrogating the developer or organisation's systems and processes.
Mr. Maxwell, do you have any other questions?
I've got another question, slightly different. Given that the council has declared a climate emergency and has committed significant ratepayers' funds towards achieving net zero emissions by 2030, has the town assessed the impact that the removal of more than 50 mature trees at Elizabeth Bailey Park has had on local temperatures and carbon dioxide levels within the town?
Going to refer that question to the acting CEO.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. We will soon be undertaking our next temperature mapping. So we do send a plane up in the sky with the City of Canning to understand our canopy coverage and the impact that has on the urban heat island. We will have that information over the coming months, which may provide a change or an understanding of the impact with Elizabeth Bailey. That won't give us information around emissions, just on air temperature and canopy coverage.
I'm sure, Mr. Maxwell, as you can understand, council is disappointed beyond belief at the removal of trees that we didn't originally plan would be removed from Elizabeth Bailey Park. And clearly the loss of some of those trees, potentially not all of them, will have a more significant impact on our local environment than others will. So it's regrettable what has occurred, and clearly they do have an impact, because every loss of a tree is a loss to the town in terms of our ability to keep our community cool. But in the circumstances, not everything works in a perfect world, Mr. Maxwell. So we will do our best to plant more trees in that place and other places, in the hope that in the future that will contribute to mitigating the results of climate change. Okay. Thank you.
Just one, is that plane you're sending up, is that an electric plane?
Mr.
That's
Acting
a rhetorical
CEO.
question.
Thanks,
Right.
Mayor Vernon. I don't know.
Well, it's a rhetorical question. Is there anyone else who has any questions? No. In that case, I'm going to move to public statement time, which I'll now open at 6:49 p.m. Have one person who has pre-registered to indicate they wish to make a statement. So, Angela Luttrell, please come forward, state your name and your suburb, please. We'll just get you switch on. There you go.
Angela Luttrell, East Victoria Park. Thanks for the opportunity to make this statement, and good evening, everyone. My name's Angela Luttrell. I'm the current president as well as the life member at Higgins Park Tennis Club. I have met some of you before in Playfield Street. I wish to bring to your attention, we had a really serious escalation at the club, and the safety and security at the tennis club resulted from a physical assault on one of our members. who is a long-term member and past president, and she actually happens to be a member of the Town of Victoria Park staff. It happened last Wednesday on the 13th of May at 4 p.m. So I'm going to give you some background on it, and then what we think needs to probably happen as a follow-up with your assistance. So the member was assaulted inside the club's premises when she was pelted with 20 rocks and lumps of cement, resulting in several large bruises by a group of children. One of the missiles was aimed at her head. Luckily, she ducked the projectile and it hit the window, put a hole through the window, which you've already come out and helped us out with that. The other rocks also broke one of our glass outdoor tables, just totally smashed it, so that had to be cleaned up. Several other young children in the near vicinity were also in danger of the rocks, but luckily none of them were hit by the rocks, as a member had removed them to safety, because we obviously have a tennis coach there working with students. The group of 8 to 9 ranged in ages from approximately 5 to 8 at the eldest, 8 being the oldest. They are students at Millen Primary School, which is across the road, as they were still wearing their uniform at the time. So easily identifiable and well known to the Kensington Police. Police were called and the children were caught after they fled and escorted home. They are tenants of the surrounding Department of Housing dwellings in the vicinity of Millen Primary School. And this is a fact. The police obviously informed us of that. At this point, I would like to thank the admin and operations team of the town for their swift response on Thursday to secure the broken window and looking into making the front security gate totally secure so that the smaller child, a 5-year-old, can't put their hand through to unlock the gate and get in. Both the tennis and footy clubs of Higgins Park have several previous requests for installation of a long-term CCTV in the car park, but this has been continually stalled in the annual budget process for obvious reasons, because of the area, the master plan, etc., I'm assuming. While these children who cannot be prosecuted because of their age may not, the CCTV is not going to deter them, but it will actually give us some evidence if there is an assault occurring on that CCTV, because it actually has happened in the past before. I've been there 60 years and we've had many of our club people have taken it on board or been assaulted by kids that have broken in. And is the fear, the kids there and the coaches and the other adults that are seeing this are also fearful of what's going to happen, because with retaliation, they could bring back older members of their family as well. So you've got that issue that could happen. It's not an isolated case, as the harassment and theft of equipment by the children to the club's coach, his pupils, club members and members of the public have been escalating for the last 6 months. Police have been called on occasions but arrived too late to catch the children. The coach, quite rightly now, fears for his safety because there's not much he can do but watch it happen. These children are also at risk themselves because they're climbing over a 4-metre high perimeter fence trying to gain entry. Police have stated that they will increase patrols for us between 3 and 7 when these children are out of school. So my request of council is as follows. Maybe an installation or immediate installation of a CCTV camera trailer in the car park for the football and tennis club. Also, the council to assist the club by registering a formal complaint with the Department of Housing regarding the behaviour and actions of the tenants, perhaps even going so far, but I don't know where the limits are with a curfew for the children. and the council to assist and direct Indigenous outreach workers or elders in the area to visit the houses and speak to the parents to let them know that long-term and ongoing complaints to the Department of Housing can result maybe in their eviction or further action needs to be taken. Sorry it's long-winded, but I had to give you all the facts. And it is an ongoing problem with that area. It has been quiet over, we have periods of times where it is quiet, but then it escalates again. So you can understand our point of view. It's real unsafe, and we need some security. So thank you for listening.
Look, thank you very much for coming and sharing this with Council. It's obviously very difficult for us to hear that this is happening by people who live in our community to other people who live in our community. And anything that impedes the tennis club's opportunity to be a great place for people to socialise and enjoy their sport is really something that the council, I'm sure, will take on board with the town staff and do everything we can. I'll have a bit of a discussion in the coming days with the acting CEO about the requests that you've made for assistance. I feel fairly certain that we can accommodate your request for support by writing a formal complaint to the Department of Communities. I'm more than happy to write that myself to the Minister. In terms of what can be done with regards to the children, I think we should probably also be reaching out to the Millen Primary School, which again is something I can do through my relationship with the principal. And the other matters with regards to the CCTV trailer. Obviously, we're in the process of compiling our budget at the moment, and so we need to be guided by the town staff's recommendations in that regard. But rest assured, we'll take that on board. And yes, please convey to your members that council takes this matter very seriously.
Thank you. You've been informed, so hopefully we can see where we can go with it. Thanks heaps. Bye.
Thank you. Are there any other statements from members of the public? Mr. Maxwell, do you want to come forward, please?
I'm Vince Maxwell, Victoria Park. The more we hear about Elizabeth Bailey Park disaster, the more extraordinary the town's responses become. More than 50 trees were removed without proper planning. Not one tree, not two trees, more than 50. And yet after months of reports, investigations, reviews and carefully crafted language, the conclusion appears to be that nobody is actually accountable. We are repeatedly told this was a system failure, that there were unclear processes, poor oversight and inadequate controls. But systems do not fail by themselves. Senior management are responsible for creating those systems, enforcing those controls and supervising projects of this scale. The CEO has accepted overall responsibility, but what does that actually mean in practice? Because from the outside, it appears to mean absolutely nothing. If a resident unlawfully removes trees on private property, the town would issue fines and pursue enforcement action under Policy 47. The resident would not be excused because they were claimed they were incompetent, had poor oversight or misunderstood the process, yet when the town itself destroys more than 50 trees, suddenly incompetence becomes an acceptable explanation. Senior executives in this organisation are paid significant salaries. They are not trainees. They are employed because they are supposed to be experienced professionals. They're capable of managing risk, governance and compliance. If this level of failure attracts no meaningful consequence, then what exactly does accountability look like in the town of Victoria Park? The community is being asked to accept that this matter should now be formally concluded, while those responsible simply move on to implementing lessons learnt. That is not accountability, that is reputation management. The real concern here is not just the trees, it is the precedent being set that catastrophic governance failures can occur within this organisation and nobody in senior leadership pays any price whatsoever. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Maxwell. There being no one else in the public gallery for statements, I'll close public statement time at 6:59 p.m. Thank you. Item 7 on the agenda is confirmation of minutes and receipt of notes from any agenda briefing forum. So the recommendation is that Council 1 confirms the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on 21 April 2026. 2 confirms the minutes of the special council meeting held on 5 May 2026, and 3 receives the notes of the agenda briefing forum held on 5 May 2026. Can I ask please for a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation? That is moved by Councillor Minson and seconded Councillor Anderson. I formally ask, is there any dissent? No, there being no dissent, declare that carried unanimously. Item 8 is presentation of minutes from external bodies. The recommendation is that Council receives the minutes of the WA Local Government Association South East Metropolitan Zone meeting held on 18 February 2026, and 2 receives the minutes of Catalina Regional Council's meeting held on 19 February 2026. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, for the officer's recommendation? That is moved by Councillor Biondi and seconded Councillor Minson. Is there any dissent? No, there being no dissent, declare that carried unanimously. Item 9 is presentations. 9.1, petitions, there are none. 9.2, presentations, there are none. 9.3, deputations, there are none. Item 10, method of dealing with agenda business. So for elected members, I'm going to read out the items for which it's proposed we'll deal with by exception resolution, and the other items will be dealt with separately. If when I read out the item numbers there's something that you wish to have removed from the list, please let me know at the end. I'll do that before I call for a mover. These items are for exception resolution. 11.1 Council Resolution Status Report April 2026, 11.2 Response to the Elizabeth Bailey Investigation Report, 11.4 Proposed Partial Acquisition of Lot 807 from Catalina Regional Council, 12.1 Endorsement to advertise the Draft Event Plan 2027 to 2031, 14.1 Statement of Accounts March 2026, 14.2 Financial Statements March 2026, 15.1 Terms of Reference Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, 15.2 Compliance Audit Return 2025, 15.3 IT Systems Audit Report, 15.4 Audit Update Report April 2026, 15.5 Corporate Business Plan Quarter 3 Progress Report January to March 2026, 15.6 Internal Audit Schedule, 15.7 Review of Policy 031, Annual Performance Review for the CEO, 22.1.1 CEO KPI 5 Quarterly Report. Are there any items that people wish to have removed from that list? No. On that basis, can I call please for a mover and a seconder? That is moved Councillor Minson, seconded Councillor Cruiser. Is there any dissent? No, there being no dissent, declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll now go on to the items that remain. So from item 11, which is the CEO reports, both items, items 11.1 and 11.2 have been dealt with by exception resolution. That brings us to 11.3, which is the May 2026 policy review. So the recommendation for this is that Council firstly amends the following policies as contained in attachment 2. Policy 021, Elector Member Fees, Expenses and Allowances. Policy 114, Community Funding. Policy 115, Public Art. Policy 301, Procurement. Policy 308, Financial Hardship. Policy 351, Parking Permits. Policy 404, Fireworks Events. And Policy 406, Temporary Food Business and Itinerant Food Vendors. And point 2 notes that 11 policies contained in attachment 3 have been reviewed with no changes proposed. Can I seek a mover and seconder, please, for the officer's recommendation? That is moved by myself, Mayor Vernon, seconded by Councillor Minson. I will reserve my right to closing address if I need to. Councillor Minson, did you wish to be heard?
None at this stage, thank you.
All right, I'll formally ask, is there any dissent to the officer's recommendation? No. There being no dissent, declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 11.4 has already been dealt with by exception resolution. Item 12 is the Chief Community Planners reports. 12.1 has been dealt with by exception resolution. That's the only Chief Community Planner report. Item 13 is the Chief Operations Officer reports. The first item, 13.1, is for decision of council now. So that is tender TVP 2531, Administration Building Refurbishment, 99 Shepperton Road. This is an absolute majority item. The recommendation is that Council 1 awards the contract associated with TVP 2531 Administration Building Refurbishment Tender to Respondent C in Attachment 13.1.1 for the refurbishment of the town's administration building with the terms and conditions as outlined in the contract, as their offer has been evaluated as the most advantageous to the town for the lump sum price of $678,099.71 ex GST, and 2, approves an increase to the total project budget to $745,000 ex GST, ensuring adequate provision for construction risks, latent conditions and service coordination within an operational building environment. Firstly, to increase the capital works budget for the Work Order 874 Administration Building Refurbishment by $95,000, and secondly, to fund the increase by transfer from the building reserves of $95,000. Can I call please for a mover and a seconder for this item? All right, that's moved Councillor Cruiser and seconded Councillor Anderson. Councillor Cruiser, as the mover, do you wish to be heard? No? All right. Councillor Anderson, as the seconder, do you wish to be heard? Thank you. I'll formally ask, is there any dissent? No, there being no dissent, declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 13.2 on the agenda has been withdrawn by the administration for further advice. Takes us to item 14, which is the Chief Financial Officer reports. Item 14.1 and 14.2 have already been dealt with by exception resolution. 14.3 is a Director Council report. This is the 2026-27 proposed differential rates and minimum payments. So this relates to permission to advertise as required under the Local Government Act. The recommendation is that Council 1 applies differential rates for the 2026-27 financial year to advertisers in accordance with Section 6.36 of the Local Government Act 1995 for public submissions on the proposed differential rates and minimum payments as set out in the Statement of Rating Objects and Reasons for Differential Rates 2026-27 as at Attachment 1 as follows. Firstly, residential gross rental valuation, otherwise known as GRV. 1, the minimum payment is $1,482, and secondly, rate in the dollar is 0.06461 cents. Secondly, non-residential gross rental valuation GRV. Firstly, minimum payment $1,540, and secondly, rate in the dollar is 0.10917 cents. Thirdly, vacant land, the gross rental valuation or GRV. Firstly, minimum payment $2,356, and secondly, rate in the dollar is 0.12276 cents. Thirdly, authorise the CEO to give local public notice of 21 days seeking public submissions on the proposed differential rates and minimum payments for 2026-27. And fourth, request that any public submissions received relating to the above proposed differential rates and minimum payments are considered as part of the council item proposing the adoption of the 2026-27 annual budget. Can I call please for a mover and a seconder? Thank you. That's moved myself, Mayor Vernon, seconded Councillor Minson. I don't wish to be heard at this stage. Councillor Minson, do you wish to be heard?
Just quickly, I'll just briefly just outline there that support for the current proposed 5% rate revenue increase being advertised to the community. I think 5% is a reasonable target for us to have as we are going towards the preparation of our budget, considering I think the best forecasts that we have for next year are indicating that we'll have a local government cost index increase of about 4.8%. So I think that's an appropriate target to aim for. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Minson. Formally going to ask, is there any dissent? No, there being no dissent, declare that carried unanimously. Item 15 is committee reports. Item 15.1, 15.2, 15.3, 15.4, 15.5, 15.6, 15.7 have all been dealt with by exception resolution, which brings us to item 16, which is applications for leave of absence. Now, I have notification of 2, but I want to just clarify with regards to the second application. Councillor Gordon Manley, you're seeking approval of leave of absence for, is it only one day, or are you looking for it to cover a broader range of dates? Because all I've been given is that you need to be approved leave of absence for the 16th of June. Is that right?
Apologies, it's for that week. That was my bad communication.
All right, so do you have those dates?
Yep.
Please.
From the 15th of June to the 21st of June.
All right, so the recommendation is that Council approves 1, a leave of absence for Deputy Mayor Lindsay Miles for the dates of 20 July 2026 to 24 July 2026 inclusive. And secondly, a leave of absence for Councillor Jack Gordon Manley for the dates of 15 June 2026 to 21 June 2026 inclusive.
21 June or 22? Sorry.
21 June, I understood Councillor Gordon Manley to say, is that right? 21 June, thank you. So, seeking a mover and a seconder, please. All right, that's moved Councillor Biondi, seconded Councillor Cruiser. Is there any dissent? No, there being no dissent, declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 17, motion of which previous notice has been given. There are none. Item 18, questions from members without notice. Do members have questions that they would like to ask without notice? No? In that case, can't resist the opportunity. I'm just going to ask a couple of questions as a result of the statement we had made to us earlier by the president of the Higgins Park Tennis Club. So noting that we were told that the town staff responded the following day to deal with obvious damage to the clubhouse site. Perhaps my question, and I know that it is without notice, so apologise for putting you on the spot. Is there scope and opportunity between now and the adoption of our 26-27 budget, given that we understand that's not going to take place until probably the first week of July, for the town to consider deployment of a mobile CCTV stand or tower into the car park which is occupied or used by patrons of the tennis club and the Raiders Junior Football Club. I'm going to go to Chief Operations Officer Ms Labicus.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Yes, there is opportunity for us to get some costings and other things around that for inclusion in the budget process. In speaking with, so I actually went personally to the club on Friday, and we've actually made an undertaking to do a proper SEPTED evaluation of the club. So I guess so I acknowledge that CCTV will capture people doing stuff, but I guess given that the kids actually were in school uniform and things, we don't think that it would be particularly effective in terms of a preventative measure. So we want to have a look more holistically at that site.
Okay, thank you. My follow-up question from that, and I possibly wasn't clear, whilst obviously I'm interested in what the town could do by way of putting figures potentially forward for the future budget, but I guess my question is whether between now and the budget being adopted, is there anything that we could do in the meantime by way of a temporary measure, noting your comments that CCTV cameras don't always deter crime, but sometimes they do have a deterrent effect on those who believe that they may be captured on CCTV and don't wish to be. So I'm more looking at the time period between now and when, say, the budget is adopted. Is there any opportunity for the town to assist with mobile CCTV, or does that require budget to be allocated? Ms Labicus.
I would need to have a look at the budget that's been set aside for Higgins Park, and if that budget is currently running underspent, or if there are other budgets in the building asset type that's underspent that we can accommodate that, then we can reach out to our partner and hire a unit for them.
Okay, thank you. You indicated that as a result of your visit on Friday, there's an undertaking given by the town to assess the site in accordance with SEPTED principles. Noting for my own part that over a good number of years, the club has contacted me variously when there has been break-ins and the like, of which, in my experience, there's been more at that club than there probably have been at many other clubhouse facilities that we lease out to community sporting organisations, perhaps with the exception of the Carlisle Football Club. Will the assessment for SEPTED principles also look at the clubhouse as an asset of the town as to whether or not it has sufficient in terms of security enhancements like window grills, door grills, double deadbolt locks, that sort of thing, things that will prevent ingress into the building by external forces, and that includes the perimeter fencing? Ms Labicus.
Thank you, Mayor Vernon. Yes, it will.
I perhaps might ask the acting CEO. I know that I indicated to the President during her statement to us that I was more than happy to author a letter to the Minister as well as the Department of Communities, given that our community development officers sit in your usual team as Chief Community Planner. Is this an area where the town has any staff who would be in a position to assist either the club or discussions and liaisons with the Millen Primary School and or discussions and liaisons with the Department of Communities about what's gone on? Mr Doy.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Yes, we are in a position to do that and have already commenced the process of doing that as well. Less so with Millen Primary School, although we will reach out to Millen Primary School, but less with Millen Primary School, considering that the incidents have occurred outside of school times, which is outside of the responsibility of the teachers at Millen Primary School, although there is still a role to play for them as well. So we will reach out to Millen. We have already made contact with Department of Communities. We have already made contact with West Australian Police as well, and we are in constant communication with West Australian Police. We've made communication with our outreach services, as was indicated as a opportunity in the public statement tonight. We've also reached out to PCYC as well to see whether there's any support from PCYC, which are in the town, within the town of Victoria Park. So, in short, we are doing some more, taking immediate action. It does sit with us, and there is more conversations that are happening at the moment as to what further we can do.
All right, thanks, Mr. Doy. That's all the questions that I had in relation to the incident at Higgins Park Tennis Club from last week. But I have a question, come as no surprise to the Chief Operations Officer, one of my current regular questions. Progress on the commencement of the remainder of the works at Right of Way 46, which, as at my, I think, email back in February, indicated that tender was due to be awarded, and I think the update I've recently had is that it was awarded. It was said that works were going to start by the end of April, but they've yet to begin. So I'd be grateful to have an update on behalf of all the residents who live around Right of Way 46. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Vernon. Yes, there was a contract startup meeting last week. We're getting the times and dates locked in for Right of Way 46. So once we have those dates, then we'll communicate with the local residents about what's going on in that space. I think the elapsed time is about 2 weeks to complete that work.
All right, thank you. I have one other question, and that relates to the commencement of our obligations at Long Park. So obviously Council at a previous meeting agreed to take on the responsibilities of maintenance at the park. But I know that, for example, there are a number of things that needed to be completed and that the town had been looking at defects with regards to things like the tree planting, the irrigation, etc. Be very grateful to have an update from a member of the town staff about where we're at in terms of the extent to which we've taken over the maintenance responsibilities and or the extent to which we are still waiting for defects work to be completed. Ms. Labicus?
Thank you, Mayor Vernon. We are yet to take over maintenance. We're still working through those residual issues. The reinstatement of John Bissett is underway at the moment, and there's some negotiation that's happening around the quality of the irrigation systems and other things. So we're hopeful that we should be in a position to sign by the end of the month.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad that you actually mentioned John Bissett Reserve and the remediation of that. The last time I drove by, there looked like there was a lot of compaction of the site going on, given I would have thought the site got heavily compacted over the couple of years that it was the laydown. Do you have any details you can provide us as to what is getting, I guess, reinstated? Are we getting, for example, turf back in there? Are we getting any plantings, or what might it be? Ms. Labicus?
Yes, we are getting turf back in there, and that's the point of discussion at the moment, is what's underneath the ground and what's been compacted, and also the quality of the turf and what we're expecting. So it will be turned back into green space.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions any elected members have without notice? No, no one's got any questions. All right, so we'll move on then to item 19, new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. There is none. Item 20 on our agenda is the second public question time, which I now open at 7:23 p.m. and ask, is there any member of the public who wishes to ask any questions? No? All right, I will close public question time at 7:23 p.m. Item 21 on our agenda is public statement time for the second time, which I'll now open at 7:23 p.m. and ask, is there any member of the public who would wish to make a statement? No? On that basis, I will close public statement time at 7:23 p.m. All right, thank you is noted. Thank you very much. And so item 22 is meeting closed to the public. There was a matter for which the meeting could have been closed to the public, but it's already been dealt with by way of exception resolution. So we have no other items for which the meeting may be closed to the public. And so on that basis, at 7:24 p.m, I declare the council meeting is closed. Thank you, everybody, for your time and attention, and to those who joined us on live streaming, thank you and good night. We're adjourned.